Hey everyone, it's chapter 6, The Shadow of Vulgarity, one of the more amusingly titled chapters in this book. This is a relatively short video, but hopefully useful, interesting, and will lead you in some good directions. So, what we're going to talk about are some of the more episodic kinds of entertainment that lead us into, the book musical, which we see kind of starting to solidify with Showboat and then really kind of flowering with Oklahoma. Um, but before we get there, you would have there were kind of acting troupes who would put on these revues that were very popular, and so that's what this chapter kind of focuses on. um, that some of it was a development of really exciting spectacle, so that when you would go to the theater, it wasn't necessarily about a coherent plot like a musical would have. It was about costumes you couldn't believe. If you've ever seen those images of like Las Vegas showgirls with those giant, 10-pound glittering headdresses walking around, for you to look at because they can't really dance in them. It's that kind of spectacle. But you would also have acting troupes where players would play multiple parts and kind of switch off, like you see in sketch comedy, like Upright Citizens Brigade, and places like that. And I mean, you'll never grow broke showing people beautiful women, and I think and men, but definitely one of the consistent themes that you see is that when there is a stage and when there are women, there are people who want to look at the women on the stage. It's problematic, and some of the stuff we're going to talk about later in the class calls it out as such, which is great. But right now we're sort of in the mire of vulgarity, as it were. There were also what are called more intimate reviews, where you have smaller bands, where you have smaller stages, smaller theaters. And so you would have things like partner dance, like Fred Astaire is someone we're going to talk about a bit today. So that's a little bit of a context for you there. Make sure you watch this video of the Ziegfeld Follies. One thing that's great is that some of the early 20th century stuff, as soon as sound technology was added to film, they would resurrect it and make sure that people got to see it. Just like with that video of After the Ball, the Ziegfeld Follies, they're like, okay, we got to make sure we have this recorded for posterity, before these shows stop being offered. And this is an example of what I was just talking about, where the point is what you are looking at. The point is excess and decadence, which is exciting. So, definitely watch these Fred Astaire scenes. There's this YouTube channel called Miss Mojo, and I don't know what all of her channel does, but the musical theater stuff is pretty fun. I don't agree with all of it, but she's into dance, she's into musicals, and there's a lot of great clips on there. And it's supporting a person who's trying to make their YouTube stuff happen. So, I support that definitely. Um Fred Astaire is one of those dancers who makes very, very difficult work look graceful and easy. And he does it fairly late in his life. Some of the younger footage of Astaire here um, is, obviously unparalleled. But even when he's, well into his 40s, he's just fit and the timing is right and the grace is there and the endurance is there. It's really compelling to watch. Um, I don't know how well that link copied actually, so I mean, if you just look up top 10 Astaire dance scenes, that'll be it. Um, you'll see both partner dancing, you'll see solo dancing. The partners, both Ginger Rogers and Sid Charisse were, professional dancers, and Ginger Rogers had a really good acting career too. Sid Charisse is just an incredibly elegant dancer who also worked with Gene Kelly and some things. It is, fantastic. Rita Hayworth was a movie star who could also dance. So you can sometimes see dancers who are good at acting, but then there's movie stars who can also dance. And the fact that Hayworth was able to kind of keep up with him is pretty exciting. There is some group choreography in these, but the focus is on how well two people can match one another dancing. We talk a little bit in this class about how plot and action and song and all of it comes together. And that happens in partner dancing, right? You have usually it's the romantic couple at the center of a show. And if you can see them mirror one another in dancing, it's a demonstration of compatibility. It's chemistry, it's physical. Um, there's, I don't want to call it a mating dance because that sounds disturbingly anthropological, but it is kind of a part of flirtation. Even now, people go dancing. So the ability to dance with someone is kind of like a sublimated kind of attraction there. Um, the women partners in these definitely heroic. I mean, they are backwards and in heels, and many of them are also wearing challenging costumes for dance. If you've ever learned about ballroom or if you've ever, tried to dance well in a long gown, it is not easy. So definitely look at the skill of the women dancers here while we look at Fred Astaire as someone who had such a long career that he kind of starts off when this stuff is at the very beginning, but in mid-century he's still well known and he's still dancing. Um, Now for something less fun, but also just weird and problematic, let's look at As Thousands Cheer. I'm not sure who the thousands are or why they are cheering. But if you look at pages 220 through, I think it goes through 222, um, it's a program that's basically like a sketch comedy review. So there's songs for everything and there's jokes for everything and little skits. And then you'd have a few actors who would play all the different parts. If you ever watch SNL, that's a really good parallel today. Like, I'm guessing, yeah, well, when historical events happen, then if you watch it like sometime that weekend, you'll see, a skit with the president, a skit with, some current events, a skit with whatever the current movie of the day is, and all that. So this is basically that, but just for, many, many years ago. Um, you see, we've got, man bites dog, ha ha ha. Roosevelt inaugurated tomorrow. And I guess we can see how the um how old it is. Then you have celebrity weddings, Barbara Hutton marrying a prince. She was the heiress of the Woolworth Company. Heat wave. Hey, and there's a song called Heat Wave. So, is it that they want to talk about the heat wave so they can sing the song or vice versa? The celebrity divorce. Here's a boat sailing. So, love on a boat, potentially. Um, Although it's called When the Dollar Goes to Hell, so I guess that's the vibe we're supposed to have with it. The Lonely Hearts column, Wealthiest Man turns 94. You could see somebody writing a skit about that, etc., etc. And then when we look at Act Two, it kind of takes a turn. There's the Metropolitan Opera opening. Okay, that's reasonable. Um, and then there's a lynching, and then there's a hunger strike with Gandhi in India, and then there's a revolt in Cuba. Um, yeah, I mean, this is serious, serious news. And it might seem really strange and disturbing to include this in a song and dance entertainment. Um, I also wonder, though, if there are current parallels where we can see an interest in awful material and then people process it as a community, or through finding like the one sort of morbid joke that you can make about it, or through just taking it seriously, and then a little bit later something lightens the mood. Maybe this is, I don't think it's necessarily good to have song and dance, especially when the Cuba one is clearly like, oh, hey, Cuba, let's do some Latin dance moves. A little bit, insensitive, I think. But I mean, this is the culture that we're looking at. We're looking back, um, you know, almost 100 years. So, and then if you look at 222, this is amazing, by the way. So number 8, we have, one of the highlights of the Harlem Renaissance, Josephine Baker, and the just brilliant reception she had in Paris, during a time when Black artists faced, well, continue to face considerable racism in this country. A lot just moved to Europe, where they often had better careers. And it's not that there's no racism in Europe, it's everywhere, but Josephine Baker was especially celebrated in the 1920s in Paris. Um, what I find incredible here is number 9, Supreme Court hands down important decision. And then there's the finale. Like, I mean, that's what we're just going through right now, where we have Supreme Court decisions that occupy everybody's time. I mean, maybe if there's a contemporary parallel to As Thousands Cheer, it's something like Twitter, where yes, you see like cute animal pictures and celebrity news, but you also see some things that are genuinely horrifying and scary. There's a lot to think about with these reviews, and they're surprisingly relevant the more you think about them. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Lots of dance to watch as well. Take care.